2018. So I worked for this TLC company based in Joplin, Missouri for about 13 months. And it took me about 10 months to become a trainer. So once I was a trainer, I was like, wow, I'm a trainer. That's a skill that I could transfer to a company that values trainers. So I looked around and found Warner, who was based in Omaha, Nebraska. I got hired on with them, and they told me that I could be a trainer. You know, I think it was like after 6 months or something, because I was already a trainer for another company. So I got with them and I became a trainer right away, and man, I made really good money because I got all the miles that the trainee drove, like if I was driving. So it was almost double, you know, my pay. So I was making like 60 grand a year in 1995. This is a lot of money back then. And but man, it was hard. I worked so hard. It was hard training these guys who would just get out of truck driving school how to drive truck, because truck driving school, you had to unteach them all these dumb things that they taught them. And so there was a lot of ways to make extra money with that company, like by reducing your idle time and fuel economy and bonus miles, and even photography. They had a calendar contest. If you took, they chose the best pictures for their calendar, best pictures of the truck. So everywhere I went, that was cool. I would take great pictures of my truck. And the first year, I think I won like second, third, and honorable mention. With second place was 500, third was 250, and honorable mention was 100. So like made $850 off this calendar the first year. The second year, I think I got like third and a few honorable mentions. So it was like 250, like $550 the second year. And that was in 95, 96. And then so truck driver training, being a trainer, was a grind, man. It was so hard. It was the hardest job I ever done. And not in terms of challenging, but in terms of like sheer hours and exhaustion level. Anyway, so I started thinking about having my own truck, and so I researched it and went with a company called Knight Transportation based in Phoenix, Arizona. And I got with them, and let's see, 94, 95, 96, 97, maybe like 98, and drove company truck for about a year, and then bought my own truck. Can't remember where I bought it from, but it was like this green thing. It was cool. It was like a 15-speed Freightliner. Had a nice walk-in sleeper. It was one of those condos. They were pretty new at the time. And so when I was with Warner, you could what was cool with them is there was a whole 48 state and Canada company, and you could request days off wherever you want. So I used it to see all 48 states, and the one that was hardest for me to see was Maine. So I had to request days off in Maine, and I remember I went swimming and where George Bush Sr.'s place is Kennebunkport, Maine, and I went swimming there. That was cool. I remember I got stranded one time in Brattleboro, Vermont, and went swimming there and kayaking. I had a lot of adventures when I was truck driving. I would go and see wherever I was at, make a good effort to experience where I was at, not just be in the truck and be driving. I would get on a bus and explore a city and sightsee. So that was with Warner, and then I got with Knight, and Knight was mostly West Coast. I mean, I did do a little bit of the rest of the country, but not a lot. And I think when I was with TLC, I did this. We had this run where we would end up on in New York City, or not New York, New Jersey. And I figured out right away that I could park my truck and take the train into New York City. And I always had like a day and a half to burn, because this is the way we timed it. And I would go spend a day in New York City. And so I spent 10 different days, one day at a time, exploring New York City. And I did the same thing with Washington, D.C. I took days off in, somewhere in Maryland, Aberdeen, Maryland. And I took the train into Washington, D.C. And I met this really cute blonde truck driver woman, and we took days off together. We got a motel together, and we explored DC together. That was pretty fun, and she's pretty sexy. Anyway, so after working for about a year with Knight, I bought my own truck, and I had that truck for probably, I'm gonna say, a year and a half. And one time I was going to my grandmother's funeral, but I was gonna go pick up a load and take the kids, and I hit this windstorm with an empty trailer, and it knocked my trailer, it knocked my truck upside down. I got out of it first. I mean, I hit it, and the whole thing just like, whoo, and I was like, wow, this is gonna knock me over. So I pulled over, thinking at least if I get blown over, it's better to be stopped. And then I saw an underpass. I thought, oh, I can get under that underpass and I'll be all right. And I went to take off, and the wind had picked me up and jackknifed my trailer so that my drive wheels were in the air, and I couldn't go anywhere. And so then I called my kids. This is after I had cell phone, and to say bye. And my daughter goes, "Well, get out of the truck." I'm like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." So I get out of the truck, and I get into this Caltrans workers truck, and we watched my truck turn over. My dog was in it, and that truck was that was my work, that was my car, that was my home, all in one. And I watched it just turn upside down, and it was pretty traumatic and pretty devastating. But so I went home, and I was like, well, I'm a truck driver, I'm owner operator, I gotta get the insurance money from this and buy another truck. So I looked and looked. It took me about 6 weeks of being off of work, and I found one in Kansas City, Missouri. So I flew out there, and the guy was like, "What are you doing? It's not ready." So I had to wait a week for my truck to be ready. They were working on it, fixing it up. It was another condo. This one was an 18-speed. It was nice. It had a big Caterpillar motor in it, and it had a lot of problems, but I got it for so cheap that it was worth it, and the insurance paid for most of it. So that my truck turning over in a windstorm didn't really devastate me, Anyway, so I still made it to my grandmother's funeral, you know, even though my truck got turned over in a windstorm. It was crazy. I took my kids with me. Anyway, so yeah, I drove truck for 10 years in one day. I got many, many stories. Made a lot of money. I paid off my land driving truck. You know, so after I was owner operator, I was like, I could have a dog, you know, go with me. So I was thinking, what would be a good dog? And then I thought about that movie, The Road Warrior, with Mel Gibson, and he had that dog, you know, his road buddy, and I'm like, that's the perfect dog, you know. So when I thought that, I got on the CB and I was talking to another truck driver from the same company and told him I was looking for a dog. He was like, yeah, my sister has a dog that needs a home. And so like within less than 24 hours, I had me a cool Queensland Heeler puppy, and he went on the truck with me, and he was amazing, man. That dog was ferocious. I named him Trucker, and he knew his job, man. We would get to like some kind of warehouse that had a gate all around it, and as soon as we got there, I'd open the door and he'd run outside and he'd run around and do his business, sniff around, check everything out. And when I wanted him to come back, all I'd do was honk the horn and he would come running back and jump in the truck. I had that dog trained so good, it was crazy, man. And that dog bit everyone that he could. That dog was mean. And it was good because, you know, he kept everyone away from my truck, and I felt safer with him. Anyway, so when the internet came, I was like, oh man, I want to use the internet to get me a woman to drive truck with me. So I went to the library in town and typed in used computers, whipped out my credit card, and spent $500 on a laptop. And got on Matchjock.com and put an ad saying that I was looking for a woman to come and drive truck with me. And I would meet women in truck stops, and they would look at my truck. And I met one in Sacramento, and that was Karen. She lived with me for a year and a half, 2 years maybe. She went to truck driving school. She was a librarian. She went to truck driving school, and she was living with her 2 sons, and she was like done with them. So she left them the apartment, and she came and lived with me. And she lived at my house while she was going to truck driving school, and right when she was done with truck driving school, she broke her leg, and that took her more time for her to come on a truck with me. But eventually she came on the truck with me, and we drove team for a while. She didn't do it that long, maybe 8 months, but it was fun. We saw the country, you know. I paid all her truck driving school. I paid her bills. She was in 2004, I had my truck paid off, and I was like, I wasn't making that much money because I couldn't work that much because I had sleep apnea. So I was like, I gotta stop driving truck. I was 465 pounds. When I started driving truck, I was 265. So I've gained 200 pounds driving truck, and I'm like, this is gonna kill me. So I was like, I gotta get out of this. So my truck was paid off, so I was like, I'm gonna sell this thing and I'm gonna get out. So I found a guy in Rhode Island, I think, or Maryland, one of them back east countries. And he's like, he just got an inheritance, and he's like, I always wanted to be a truck driver. And so he bought it took a long time. I had to wait there for almost a week for him to get ready to buy my truck. And then the deal was I had to take him cross country back with me so he could experience being a truck driver. It was always his dream to be a truck driver. He didn't have a truck driving license or anything, so he finally gave me all the money to get the truck, and 25 grand, and I brought him to California. He went to the powwow with me, and And then the truck was him, and he has no truck driving license. He drove it back. I don't know how he got back, not stopping in the scales or whatever. I don't know, the guy was crazy. Anyway, so, that was that. I sold my truck, and I was like, oh, I'll try and be a company driver for a while, but they wanted to push me harder than I could do it. I had sleep apnea. I couldn't sleep. It was like a mess, and I stopped driving truck. I was like, man, I'm getting ready to die. So that took me to 2004. I drove truck for 10 years and one day. There's a lot of truck driving stories. I saw so much carnage. I saw dead people all over the place. You see wrecks all over the place. Truck driving was hard and lonely. But I went from being a trainee to a second seat to a first seat to a trainer in 10 months. And then got with Warner, and they pay me really good to be a trainer. I did that, I don't know, like maybe 2.5 years, maybe. And then I got with Knight, and I drove truck with them. Whoa, I just missed that train. I drove with them, and then I bought my own truck with them after being with them for about a year, I'd say. And was the owner-operator for the last maybe 5 years, something like that. Man, it was gonna kill me. I enjoyed my time as a truck driver. I got to see the whole country. I made money to pay off my kids and my land, and then I ended up with a nest egg, and I'm 42 years old. See, I stopped driving a truck. I stopped driving in 2004. I was 42, and 2004 I was 42, and I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna fight for my life, because I was getting ready to die. Shoot, it was like I couldn't breathe, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't walk. It was a mess, man. At 42 years old. So I was like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die fighting. And that's how I got into cage fighting. And right when I thought that, there was a ad in the Mariposa paper saying how we had a new cage